the parents out there, was there one point when you thought that Michael was going to be as great a player as he is?
No, there was no way you could tell. You know, I always thought Michael would play baseball. Of course, he had that year that he grew so much, and it's just been a joy watching him develop into the player that the world can see today.
Michael Jeffrey Jordan, born February 17, 1963. They say nothing sticks with you like your first time. Well, in the 90s as a kid, Michael Jordan was the first athlete I'd ever seen dominate his competition, and since then, he's been the GOAT in my opinion. He never took shortcuts, and he never seemed he wasn't on his way to becoming the greatest of all time. Even when he wasn't winning, you saw him come back year after year with something new or old but polished to be unstoppable. But by the laws of stunted growth, it's only fair to agree with the ones that believe he could have been even better. Not disappointing by any means, but for these reasons, Michael Jordan's all-time career, where he won a championship 60% of the 90s decade, all finals MVPs, never lost in the finals, 5 seasons he was the league most valuable player, and even the player of the year on the defensive end, plus a shopping list of achievements including the Hall of Fame, still fell short of taking the game to another level, and even he knows it would have happened in the 98-99 season, winning to sign a 1-year deal in hunt for number 7, but forced to retire because of front office reasons. That ring would have certainly closed the door on the conversation of who was the greatest of all time, and it was a good chance that team came back for number 8 as well, with the front office, coach, team, and superstar they had still in their competitive primes. Make matters more unbelievable, this was the second time in his career Jordan gave away a likely 2 championships. He retired the first time in '93, missing a full season after winning 3 straight and returning to play with just 17 games left the year following, just because he got bored, or to challenge himself in a different arena, or to satisfy he and his father's shared dreams of him playing professional baseball, honoring James Jordan's legacy after being tragically shot to death as he slept in his car in a hotel parking lot, recovering from a long day of golf. Of course, it's wishful thinking that Jordan could have swept the 90s and won 10 straight, becoming the second superstar after Bill Russell to win 10 championships. Shout out to Sam Jones. But the chances a team in 93-94, 94-95, 98-99, or 99-2000 beat the Bulls and Jordan in a playoff series was arguably even more unlikely. It pains me to say this, but for these reasons, Michael Jordan's growth was stunted. Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. I'm back. Let's get it, man. Michael Jordan was a 6'6" shooting guard from North Carolina, born in Brooklyn, New York, and moving to Wilmington at 5 years old. As mentioned, he started off with goals of becoming a professional baseball player and also participated in football and of course basketball early on, looking for any way he could compete against his father and 2 older brothers, James Jr. and Larry. He was slow to develop on the court, only 5'11" as a sophomore at Emsley A. Laney High School, therefore didn't make the varsity team until his junior year, after growing 4 inches, and not only made the team but became a star in a 2-year time, where he was a McDonald's All-American by the time high school was all said and done. He averaged 25 points a game over his junior and senior seasons, leading to recruitment letters from all the top schools, including North Carolina and crosstown rival the Duke Blue Devils. Of course, he chose the Tar Heels and began his journey of becoming the greatest Tar Heel in program history, hitting arguably the most famous shot in college basketball history as well. He left after his junior season in '84, entering the league at 21 years old, drafted by the Chicago Bulls with the 3rd overall pick. Stunt number 1, taking the heat. I can't express enough how Michael Jordan's career was one I'd choose over any player that ever played the game, and your favorite player probably would as well. He won his first championship in 90-91, and by 97-98 won 6 rings. I understand 4 is a stretch, but at least 2 more possibly added to the mantle is just about a guarantee. the most competitive athlete I've ever seen that was the godfather of the term Mamba mentality. Everything Kobe learned and used to formulate that mantra, Jordan taught him, and to Kobe's credit, he was the best student Jordan ever had by far. It took Michael losing 6 straight years to finally win his first, but when he did, he and the Bulls went on a roll, winning for the next 3 seasons, with Jordan averaging 33.5 points a game, shooting 38% from 3, and a little over 2 steals a game in that span. He was 27, 28, and 29 years old, far from his prime ending, but after the three-peat was completed in '93 and his father being killed little over a month later, Jordan stepped up to the podium and retired from the game, stating, "When I lose the sense of motivation and the sense to prove something as a basketball player, it's time for me to move away. It's not because I don't love the game, I always will. I just feel that I have reached the pinnacle of my career." That was the perfect PR statement, but none of it was actually true. He was still motivated to defend the throne, still had things to prove, and was definitely not at the pinnacle of his career with 3 more in the tank. The reason I think Michael retired in '93 was because of how much attention the media was and would have put on the passing of his father all summer and all during the season. How much that would have hurt him to have to see all the stories of what happened to his dad, and what that meant for the next season, the distraction it would have been for the Bulls chasing a 4th. It was the only way he could stop them from speaking on his father, instead giving the media an even juicier story of the greatest retiring, entering his prime, and how the NBA would be without him, along with how well he could do in baseball. He took the heat off his father as the right thing to do, even though it crushed him watching the Bulls crumble in '93-'94, losing in the second round to the Knicks. He was so hungry he couldn't even let the following year go by without seeing if he could help the team with 17 games to go in '94-'95, and they lost again in the second round as Jordan was clearly rusty. Those 2 seasons are the surest that Jordan would have picked up 2 more rings, taking the total to 8 and not 6. But it had to be done. He had to take the heat for Dad. Stunt number 2, called his bluff. If you didn't know, Michael Jordan is a huge betting man who finds competition in everything on and off the court. By '97-'98, he was 34 years old and just won another three-peat and his 6th overall ring. He was already the greatest of all time, and the world knew it just as much as I'm sure he did. Feeling as though all the leverage was in his corner, he threatened to retire if general manager Jerry Krause didn't find a way to first bring back Phil Jackson, who wanted a new contract but the Bulls wanted to experiment going a different way, Rodman, who was released by the Bulls before the '98-'99 season, Steve Kerr, who was a free agent, Scottie Pippen as well, and of course Michael himself. But not just Jerry Krause, the GM, set Michael on a defensive path. In '96, Jordan had led the Bulls to their 4th championship and also became a free agent that summer. Looking to get paid his worth for taking the Bulls to a plateau no one imagined, Jordan was stunned owner Jerry Reinsdorf was playing possum with his money, making Michael even considering joining the Knicks. Reinsdorf finally paid him his money to the tune of $30 million a year, but after signing the deal, he left Jordan with what Michael considered a disrespectful jab on his way out the door, grabbing him by the arm and saying to him, "I'm going to live to regret giving you this contract," reportedly leaving Michael pissed. That, then Jerry Krause paying Tony Kukoc, his pet project, more than Pippen, and almost as much as Jordan, infuriated the superstar, on top of not wanting to bring his coach and team back he had so much success with. So he called their bluff, and this time, betting on himself, he lost. Stunt number 3, just couldn't stay away. And lastly, what I think taints the growth of Michael Jordan is him coming out of retirement once again in 2001 at 38 years old after missing 3 full seasons. He played 2 more seasons and even made the All-Star team in both years, largely helped by the fans' starting 5 voting system and the game itself missing the greatest of all time, who was still a really good player, capable of averaging 20 points a game and 5 assists and defending at a decent level. But him not leaving after the all-time great last shot, holding the pose on a jumper that took the lead for the Bulls over the Jazz with 5 seconds left, on their way to their 6th championship under Michael Jordan, then coming back 4 years later with the Wizards of all teams, who Jordan just never seemed to look right playing for, was the ending no one wanted to see. Leaving in '98 and staying gone like he intended to was the perfect way to go out. Instead, he gave us those final 2 years that hurt his averages and showed us a mortal side to Michael we hadn't seen since his earlier years. All in all, Michael Jordan, like mentioned, had a career I'd take over anyone. He became the biggest sports icon ever, owner of one of the top-selling brands and has been for decades, and his legacy, with all said earlier, still remains the best I think I'll ever get to see. Great player, obviously, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.